The time is exactly 9:37 a.m. News and views right here on Salam Media. Welcome back, and I do hope that you are going to keep us company for the rest of the time left with us here on News and Views. Now, our next guest is Bongani. Is it Bongi Baloyi? I hope I've got the name correct there. Bongani Baloyi. He is the Gauteng Chairperson, Action South Africa. And we are now going to be unpacking the withdrawal of Action South Africa from DA-led coalition in Ekurhuleni. After voting in favor of the DA to reinstate Tanya Campbell as the mayor of Ekurhuleni last week, apparently Action South Africa has now dumped the multi-party coalition, and undoubtedly there must be some very, very good reasons for them having taken this stance. A very good morning to you, Bongani Baloyi. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on the program.
Lovely to have you here. So that's been a bit of a turnaround, hasn't it? Voting Tanya Campbell in, and then shortly thereafter, Action South Africa decides that they want to withdraw from the coalition. What was the reason for that?
Our position of whether we'll support an ANC candidate is well documented, and our position is very public that we will never support, at least in the current situation, the ANC. So when in council, it was clear that there's the reasonable success of defeating the ANC again in the voting in of a new mayor, because the ANC and the EFF had not managed to reconcile and come to a common position. We therefore elected that we were not going to abstain as originally planned. Abstaining would have meant that automatically the ANC would have won the race. So we elected rather to support Tanya with our votes to elect her, whilst knowing very well that our primary objective is to ensure that we sustain the position of the ANC of being outside of government and not being in government. So that justifies why we voted her in with her weaknesses. Unfortunately, there was no other candidate the DA had put forward. It was only Tanya, and with her weaknesses and her level of incompetence and struggling to manage as a complex institution of government. So we still elected her, choosing her as the better devil. And after that, our caucus had started a conversation with the leadership to say, look, we don't want to be part of this coalition any longer because of the service delivery failures and challenges, and equally our inability to effectively represent our residents and service delivery, because we have to work within this whole coalition governance contract that we have signed with them, with the various provisions of how you table issues and how issues progress. I mean, something as simple as the issue of the insourcing of security guards and insourcing of cleaners. We have not made any progress. A year later into this inner city rejuvenation, we had to really fight to get that motion in council and ultimately endorsed and adopted by council. A few others as well, where we believe actually being outside of the coalition and relieving ourselves of all the provisions of this coalition contract or an agreement, we can actually work better utilizing systems of council directly without getting partners to endorse a position or support a position through a majority vote. And now we think we are better able to actually support and drive our agenda of improving our service delivery in a much more rigorous and aggressive manner.
Are you able to do that? Would the council not prevent you from going ahead? Would it not be seen or deemed as being interference on the part of ActionSA? Or as a political party, are you able to put forth the issues on the table? We know that the state of Ekurhuleni is really very dire. We've heard about rubbish being piling up all along in the streets, etc. You've also indicated about the fact that they're not even able to make simple decisions around employment of cleaning staff and security detail. So I'm wondering, how much of leeway would you have as Action South Africa outside of the council?
We have left the coalition, but we are still in council. We have not left council.
Thank you.
Representatives, correct. So we are still able to utilize all the mechanisms and systems of council that made provision for motions to be submitted and various other accountability to be extracted from the executive. And by the way, we say that the DA is free to approach us on issue-by-issue basis to solicit our vote, but they must satisfy us that whatever they plan for us to vote with them is actually going to improve service delivery. You see, now this puts us in a very strategic position, because now we are saying our point of basis for negotiation is one issue only, and it is service delivery. Prove to us is going to improve services. That's the bottom line. Anything else does not matter at this point in time. We don't care about positions or being trapped in long coalition agreements and provisions that make it difficult for you just to achieve simple things, and we must constantly negotiate. Now we are saying on the table is one thing and one thing only. It's improvement of service delivery. Demonstrate to us that whatever you're suggesting is going to improve service delivery, you'll get our vote. If they fail to do so, and if they fail to clean up the townships, which are currently dirty, I mean, they're littered with dirt all over the place. Refuse collection in some areas have not happened in 6 weeks. Other areas have not had water for about 3 months already. And these are the things that we want to put firmly on the table. If they want our support, they must address these things in a way that makes sense. And the mayor must stop refusing to go address communities in black areas, because we found this as a problem when we're part of this coalition, when our members of the coalition and to be the ones that go to these areas in the absence of the mayor. Now we're saying enough is enough. You will ensure that you service all of the residents and stop reacting with speed and haste in white areas and suburbs. And when it comes to black areas and township, I mean, she doesn't show any appetite or interest to address those issues there. Now she'll have no choice but to do that, because that will be the condition of our vote.
What happens if she still continues in the same vein of apathy? What sort of powers would you guys have as Action South Africa in getting her removed? But would that kind of perhaps backfire if you have her removed? Because I've heard lots of stories about her incompetence. It's not the first time that we're hearing this from you. And of course, it is also crucial for Action South Africa to make meaningful changes, to make action happen, to put your money where your mouth is in this particular instance, because it will be a great example to the rest of the country to indicate how action orientated you guys in fact are.
Yeah. Look, if she does not perform or shape up, she'll have to ship out in no time. And we suspect that the ANC will definitely table another vote of no confidence in her in the new year. And what happens between now and then, if she does not change and give us reasons why we must keep her there, then she'll be in a difficult position. Unfortunately, in this case, she does not have an option. The DA does not have many options. They don't have majority in council. So whenever there's a council meeting, they are going to need parties around the table to support an item or items that will be rejected, and it's going to compromise how they do business. So they're actually between a rock and a hard place now more than ever. So they need us now more than ever. It means that her behavior needs to change, her attitude towards black areas needs to change, and the DA needs to ensure that they deliver. And why they did not give a candidate that's better competent to deal with this thing, it's their responsibility. Maybe Tanya Campbell actually may well be the best that they have in Ekurhuleni. We've never actually considered that. So for us, we're saying that's a DA problem. Our problem is to ensure that they do their work, and we're going to force them kicking and screaming to come and attend to issues in our townships and in areas where people are, and deal with the issues of water provision, refuse collection, and various other parts of service delivery. They have no choice. We are going to drag them screaming and kicking.
What's the issue around the water delivery in Ekurhuleni? Is it about them not water services, Rand Water, not being paid timeously? Is there enough budget for the water services? What exactly is going on there? Are you as ActionSA looking into all of these issues? Because again, I say it, that if you address at this local level, if Action South Africa demonstrates all these winning formulas, you're going to be in a very, very strong position, not only locally but provincially as well as nationally.
Look, the issue of water stems, there's two parts to that question. One is that the bulk bill our bulk account to Rand Water is increasing, so the debt owed to Rand Water is increasing progressively, which speaks to the difficult financial position the Ekurhuleni Council find themselves in. The second part is that if you look at areas such as Duduza and Tsakani, which are very close to each other, but one area does not have water and the other area has water, it's got nothing to do with Rand Water, but all to do with the infrastructure and the seriousness of delivery of water in those areas, which they must deal with. Whether it's a low or high-lying area or low-lying area, I mean, they must deal with it. It's untenable that you can have residents who go for so long without the sustainable provision of water. Meanwhile, just across the street in that community, there is water provision. So it's something that the technical guys in Ekurhuleni and the leadership need to address and ensure that they put sufficient resources towards delivery of sustainable water in those areas.
Okay, so obviously when you look at the issue around water, you're talking about the escalating debt, the water debt that Rand Water is owed. Does that smack of perhaps corruption somewhere along the line? Are you guys looking into it? Or is it just genuinely that they weren't able to upkeep with the repayments, the water repayments and other infrastructure repayments? And also, let's look at the issue around infrastructure. We do know, not only in Ekurhuleni, but throughout the country, we have huge problems with maintenance. Is Action South Africa going to be looking at those issues as well? Because the country is crumbling as we speak, and if we don't start maintaining vigorously, it's all going to just kind of melt down, is it not?
Look, I actually enjoy how you ask the question and then respond to the question on our behalf.
No, but I want your response. I mean, these are my thoughts, but I want your response as well, because you might have a different response.
Well,
I need to join you guys.
I can say in this case, your thoughts are our thoughts as well.
Oh,
Look,
brilliant.
We've put a few conditions for the adjustment budget support. And one of those conditions is that you need to increase a level of repairs and maintenance. Now, National Treasury suggests 8% of the aid budget must be dedicated towards the repairs and maintenance of infrastructure and upkeep of infrastructure. It's something we're totally animated about. We believe that the collapse of services of infrastructure happens progressively as a consequence of lack of adequate maintenance over a long period of time, because this infrastructure has a lifespan, and you can also extend the lifespan of this infrastructure and how you maintain and handle your infrastructure over a period of time. And there's an there's a really a bigger focus on new infrastructure all the time at the expense of maintenance and repairs and maintenance rather. And the other challenge with repairs and maintenance to infrastructure is the simple fact that the residents fund the repairs and maintenance, while new infrastructure can be funded through loans, it can be funded through government grants, but there's no specific grants that deals with specifically the maintenance aspect of infrastructure and government. So when you are unable to collect and raise sufficient revenue directly from your rate space, and in Ekurhuleni, what has happened in the first 2 months of the first quarter of the financial year, they lost about 3.2 billion rands, which is attributable to the issue of Eskom and load shedding and affecting their revenue sales. So the electricity sales component is an important part because it's a part of revenue that is able to cross-subsidize other areas of service delivery, and in particular, in this case, repairs and maintenance of infrastructure. So there's a knock-on problem. If you're struggling to collect adequate revenue, it means whatever amount you put, whatever the 8% is 8% of a figure, and that figure can only be determined by collection. So if it's 8% of 1,000 rand, it's at 8%. If it's 8% of 100 rand, it's still that 8%. So the 8% is dependent on what the overall collection of revenue is. So that's why you need to improve collection of revenue. You need to protect revenue collection. And you also need to ensure that you're closing where the gaps are in terms of that. So corruption comes in when, there's an appointment of service providers without following the process, when there's people who are unqualified to work on capital projects are appointed, and therefore build sub-quality infrastructure, which deteriorates and does not meet its long lifespan as it should in various SLAs determined by the accounting standards and so forth. So, these are some of the intricacies, but I can tell you there's a fine thread that you can find between the inability of collecting adequate revenue and also repairs on infrastructure and maintenance on infrastructure and a collapsing infrastructure and water running all over the place, sewer running all over the place, and longer times in dealing with issues of electricity substations and all of these things. So there's a fine thread. But ultimately, the thing that is responsible for all of this and this ecosystem is the leadership. When you've got incompetent leadership and corrupt leadership, it's going to crumble, I can tell you that much.
Okay, my final question then to you is, talking to people like you does give me hope. Every day without fail, I come here and talk about current affairs, and it does jade you a bit, and you kind of wonder, are we ever going to get it right in South Africa? Will we get back South Africa to where it's supposed to be? But this does give people hope, and we hear this type of speak, so please keep it up. In your opinion, my final question to you, do you believe coalitions are the way to go? Will they work? Are they workable? Or is it about big egos and power struggles?
I think coalitions are certainly a reality for the future. I think coalitions is going to, we are investing in the institution of coalitions in Gauteng. So I really think we're maturing very quickly about it. And as ActionSA, we're constantly reflecting and apply our minds if we made the decision on the basis of resident-centric approach and how it affects the residents. And I think we're really getting into a space where we're starting to make decisions where we know upfront that this decision we're making may not be the best decision or in the interest of our party, but it's the best decision for our residents. So we get into that space, which ultimately we're seeing that we're going to need to take a knock. We need to elect Tanya back in there, but if she does not change, we need to make a different decision. But imagine having an ANC mayor back again. What does that mean? And I also realize and appreciate the limitation of that and saying anything else but the ANC. While some in the ANC put forward as leaders may have some competence, may have some ability to do something, but the stigma of corruption and maladministration is just too big a concern for us to accept that just yet. So I think we're still trying to find each other. There's obviously issues with the DA as well that we have, and people like me who are from the DA and some of these battles perceived as personal issues. That's a real perception that people have, and I really think we need to deal with that and make it about residents. But this politics. An environment of politics is where you find human beings, and human beings are strange creatures. Where personal issues, where we see things from a different perspective, we're advancing different causes as well, and we believe what we're trying to do as ActionSA is better than what the DA is trying to do. Those things are going to exist, so coalitions are going to replace the competitiveness and the spirit of competition in the body of our politics. I think we'll just refine it better. We need to put residents ahead of our own interests, and I really think there's going to stabilize and normalize over a period of time, at least in Gauteng. By the time we get to 2024, we should have gone through all the challenges and tests to ensure that 2024 is a much more stable environment.
Absolutely. Please, God, let it be so. Bongani Baloyi, a Gauteng Chairperson of ActionSA. Wonderful talking to you, and we truly look forward to amazing things from ActionSA. So don't let us down. Thank you for your time. Lovely talking.
Thank you.
It is exactly 9:55 News and Views. We're going to wrap up with our final interview. And of course, we're still on to the interview of the toilet situation in schools, the supposed gender-friendly toilets. Let's get some thoughts from Reverend Kenneth Mshwe, founder of the African Christian Democratic Party, and he will be joining us in a minute or two.